All right, so Geet says hello. A lot of people are able to say yes, yes, yes. I can hear her. So thank you, Soumya, for joining us among your very, very busy schedule. You're a working professional. I know how hard it is to make time for us. So today,
Thanks a lot for having me.
yes, that's our pleasure. You're a GREedge alumnus, and we're always proud of that. So just to have a quick introduction, can you please introduce yourself to the audience today?
Okay, so hi everyone. I graduated last year from Christ University, Bangalore, in economics honors. I actually hail from Calcutta in West Bengal, and my life has been like a journey. I've been traveling places. So I went to Bangalore for my undergrad, after which I was working in New Delhi with a political consultancy. Very luckily, my posting was in Himachal with the Himachal Pradesh government. So I witnessed my first snowfall last December. And right now I'm working on a project with Tata Steel in Orissa on an R&R policy. So I'm back to the plains and I'm missing the snowfall this December.
All right. I've never seen snowfall actually in my life. Having been in Chennai always throughout my life, I didn't have the lucky opportunity.
But you're near the
So,
beach.
yeah, we do have the beat. That's always there. Now, Mrunal Maniar from the audience just said, "Hi, Soumya. Congratulations for this fantastic score." And a lot of congratulations have come in for you, Soumya.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So, can you tell us your GRE score, your quant and verbal breakdown?
Yes. So I scored a 333 in my GRE with 165 in quant and a 168 in verbal. The verbal score were very surprising for me as much as it is for everybody else.
All right. In fact, 168 in verbal is a huge score for anyone, to be honest, Ben, and that's great actually. So all that besides said, before we jump to the GRE preparations, we would like to have just an introduction session with you. So what was your primary motivation to go for a master's, and which field is that you are looking at when you go for your master's?
So I've been really passionate about development ever since I've been engaged in voluntary work while in college. So I was working with a NGO in Bangalore, and I was running my own school in Bangalore for kids of construction workers. So I'm really passionate about development, and now I want to take that a step further and work at a policy level. So I'm aiming to pursue a master's in public policy from the US, hopefully, after this score.
All right, so masters in public policy is very, very new. Like we already discussed, a very, very new topic for people to go ahead. And what is that your career goes based on this particular masters? What is it that you're looking at?
So I actually aim to work with a development consultancy post my masters and work on ground base. So how World Bank and different development consultancies work, they hire associates, and then we assist the government on making these policies for people at the grassroots level. So I want to engage myself in that process and hopefully join politics eventually.
Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard someone this young to say, I want to join politics and make a difference. It's very, very good to see, to be honest. So, guys in the audience, are you able to clearly understand what Soumya is up to? She's a 333 scorer, and she's going to join politics soon after a GRE score. By the way, she's not looking for money. She's looking to do some good here. That's very, very good to hear. So, yes, says Geet. Abhinav Singh says yes. All right, so is there any issues in the audio, guys? I think there are a few people who have said there are some issues with the audio. All right, so a little bit. All right, so I think that'll get rectified. There's just some network disturbances. So Soumya, the next question I have for you is, what are the dream universities that you have in mind? Public policy is something very, very new that not all people are aware about, and there is no much clarity about the courses offered as well. So what are the dream universities you are looking at?
Right. So I'm looking at Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy in the US and the Woodrow Wilson School, which is a part of the Princeton University. And my third priority is Columbia, the SIPA School of Public Affairs. So there are a lot of, like, aside from these, there are some very good public universities in the US that offer this course with primary focus on policies from development or developing countries. But my focus is on these three universities.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. So just a quick question to the audience. So guys, I can see more people like Abdullah, Muhammad, Ajay, Aishwarya have all joined us. Just a quick question to each one of you. What are the universities are you guys are planning to target? I'm pretty sure you have some target for fall 17 or fall 18. Just to understand, what are the universities that you guys are targeting? Ajit, Ame, Anupam. So Geet says, I am starting at Ohio State University, University of Washington, says Prasanna. Stanford, says Ajay. Yale, again, says Ajay. Ohio, Virginia, Stanford, Georgia, Columbia. Very ambitious audience we have today. Purdue, CMU, Ohio State. Very, very good. All right. So I think this is the right seminar for you guys because we have a score that would get you there in those kind of universities. And we have the person who has got that as well. Will be sharing her GRE preparations with you today. All right. So Samya will quickly jump to the GRE preparations, but we have a lot to discuss with the students today, right? So the first
Yeah.
thing, question for you regarding the GRE preparations before I begin is, yeah, everyone talks about how to prepare for GRE. Everyone says this is something you need to follow, but as long as you do it yourself, you're not sure what the pitfalls are, right? So you, while pursuing a GRE, what are the primary challenges that you faced? And can you let's give a little run through of all that? What are the first challenge that you
Yeah.
faced?
So I think the first thing is that we all think that GRE is a huge ghost which is going to haunt us for the rest of our lives, and we're not going to make it to a university without this. So I think that was my biggest challenge. Like every time I sat with my books, because when you look at the GRE syllabus, it's everything you know, you've studied it before. So it really can't be anything new. And when you know that, and yet you know that you might fail in that same test for which you have already prepared since like seventh grade, that builds a lot of stress. And for me to get over that was my biggest hurdle.
Okay. And what is that solution that you just tried? What is it that you did to overcome this particular stress?
It was only mind training. And, I realized that I'm looking at a lot of things together. What is
Mm,
upsetting me when I'm preparing for my GRE test is that I'm already worrying about the scores that are going to come, let's say 40 days later after I take the test. But the fact that I'm worrying about it today is like pulling down my morale already. So I trained my mind and I like stopped myself every time I was going to be stressed. And I said, I'm only going to take it one question at a time. And until I
mm,
get this question right, I'm not going to move to the next question. Because the mistake that I felt that I made previously was that I was trying to solve as many questions as I could rather than focusing on the quality of my preparation. Like if I get a question wrong, I'm like, no, it's okay, I'll get the next question right. But no, you have
mm,
to practice every question and master each question before you move on.
mm. All right, all right. So, guys in the audience, how many guys face this particular issue, like getting stressed in your preparation, not happy with the practice exercise, not happy with your mock scores? How many guys feel that? Priyadarshini says me, Mayuri says, wow. I think the chat box just moved a lot. A lot of people saying me, especially in verbal. What is expected, guys? As I said, see, the problem is like our guest has explained that 3 hours is not going to decide your entire life. When you go in, take one question at a time. When you start doing that, you'll start doing the best out of it. You'll be ending up with just as a good score as Soumya did, like she shared right now. Now, verbal is like, I have a comment from Harshada. He says, verbal is like hell. I guess that's something we can say. That's a common opinion among GRE aspirants. So, coming back to Soumya, what was the next challenge that you faced, Soumya, when you were preparing for your GRE?
Right. So I think stress was really the biggest one, and I think that led to the others. But the next biggest was living two lives. Like being a working professional, it was really tough for me to balance between work and studies because it was like a complete shift of mindset after I came back home from work. And like going to work in the morning, this GRE prep used to like keep staying and running in my head. And
Mm,
post lunch, like my manager also used to tell me, like, you go if you can't concentrate on your work anymore.
okay.
But that was also a sort of training to the mind because at the biggest thing I learned that when you're taking the test, you have to be in the moment. You have to solve that question and not think about what the next question can be, or what is the difficulty of this question, what score will I get if I get this right or wrong. And I think living that life of coming back home at 8 and not being able to sleep or watch TV or watch my favorite videos and go back to the GRE books was annoying.
Definitely, especially when you see your friends going out immediately after work. Well, you have to go back and look at your GRE
Or
books.
sleeping.
Yeah, fair enough. That's also big. Now, Sumit just said, but it will pay back for life. I guess that's the attitude you need to keep, Sumit. Very, very good attitude. So, guys, and Soumya, being a working professional, I think it is very too great to even see that you're able to manage time. So, what was that? How were you able to manage your time while you were working and preparing for GRE?
So I'd like to second Sumit when he says that you feel that it's going to pay back in the long run, because you have to believe that no matter how stupid or how boring the test is, you have to take it to get where you have to. And that motivation is what's going to keep you going. And that's what kept me going. So I divided my time. I knew that, you need a fresh mind when you're preparing for a test like this. So I divided my 6 hours. I told I couldn't study for more than 6 hours given like practically. So I divided into two halves, 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours when I come back from work. So 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning is when I took tests. I practiced
Mm,
questions. I trained myself to look at the screen and focus for 3 hours straight. So
mm.
even if it wasn't mock test per se, I practiced as many questions continuously for 3 hours. So it was a self-curated mock test. And
Okay.
in the evenings is when I used to revise all the mistakes that I made in the morning, did not move on until I solved the previous mistake. And I cannot focus on this point more and more when I say this, that don't move on without mastering your weakness. Otherwise, no amount of practice is going to help. And that's what I did in the evenings. And as I was telling Vishnu in our brief conversation, the next
Mm,
thing I did is not over practice. If you have a study plan, if
mm.
if it's your lucky day and you have finished your evening practice in an hour, give yourself rest. Enjoy that day and don't practice like beyond 3 hours. Like, आज मेरे को नींद नहीं आ रहा है, so I'm going to practice till 2 o'clock in the morning, because that only creates more stress. What you're trying to master is you're creating your own pit.
Being that over smartness that I'll finish more so that I can do less tomorrow. That kind of approach. Yeah,
Yeah,
that never
no, no,
works.
that it doesn't work.
You saturate your mind after a point.
Absolutely. And you won't want to look at the book. You have to enjoy the process. Like you have to train yourself. Like, no, this is my best friend. I have to enjoy it.
Fair enough, fair enough. No, Ashish says pretty well said. Like everyone has just seconded on that. So the next thing, Soumya, these are like preparatory challenges that you faced primarily, right? Being a working professional and having that pressure to go out and get the better score. These are the preparatory challenges. But a lot of people in the audience have shown point out that specific weaker areas in their preparation. Speaking of
Hmm.
weaker areas, in GRE Quant, what was the challenge that you primarily faced? Which chapter?
Okay, so that sound a little silly, but the two challenges that I faced in my quant preparation was coordinate geometry and speed time distance. But the bigger one of those being coordinate geometry. And later, like when I analyzed with the help of my SFAs, uh, was I got confused only by looking at the question in coordinate geometry. It's not like the question is difficult. It's not like it's asking me some rocket science, and I don't have to study like I don't have to come first in engineering class to answer this. But it's just the construct of the sentence. Like there are so many weird numbers, variables all over the place, and then you have to answer that within a minute.
Mm,
So that really takes over your mind, and it's not a simple equation like A is equal to B. So that's what really got me. And
mm.
mastering coordinate geometry was really annoying, and I had to work really hard on this. Thanks to my SFAs for surviving me.
It's our pleasure, in fact, Soumya. So, guys, in the audience, just to have a quick recollection, I've seen a lot of people have just joined us in this seminar. So, for the people who just joined us, I have with me Soumya, who's a 333 scorer, and she's a working professional. It's like she's a Wonder Woman here for most of you guys to make you believe that you can still make it in fall 17 in the next 40 days. So she's sharing with us her challenges that she faced in his preparations and how she overcame that. So the primary discussion we're having right now is coordinate geometry. So most of you guys are preparing for your GRE right now. How many guys faced difficulty in coordinate geometry? Ajay Singh, Akash, Priyadarshini, Chikoti, anyone, how many guys are facing the primary difficulty? So Abhinav says I do. Sharad says not me. Paulami Mana says me. Shudit says me. A lot of people, now I can see more me coming in. Guys, in case if I miss out your names, don't mind because I have a huge list of me coming in. So Samya, how you mentioned that your SFA helped you in your coordinate geometry, right? Can you give us a little brief on what exactly the concept of SFA is to the audience, and then explain us how, or using a question, if you could explain us how they helped you, it'll be very, very helpful for the audience today. Can you do that?
Right. Yeah. So I'll do that. So first I'll start with what the SFA is for the benefit of the audience. So the SFA is literally your guardian angel in your entire GRE prep journey. They are going to be watching you in every step that you're taking once you're on screen on your GREedge platform. So as most of you all might know, when you all sign up for the GREedge services, you all get a dashboard. And the great thing, like I cannot stress on this enough, but the great thing about that dashboard is every cursor that you move on it is recorded. So basically on the other side of the screen, your SFA is able to watch on you on what choices you're making, on why you are getting stuck. So for example, why are you spending more time on a certain question? If you're spending more time, are you losing out on other questions or not? And based on your performance, they give you feedback, like point to point feedback, that you spend 20 seconds extra on this question, or you're getting nervous on this part. And how do they understand that is based on the data that the dashboard throws to them. So they make excellent use of the technology that the GRE Edge team has. And then you don't have to work on the analytics. They will get back to you with feedback on where exactly you have to work on your weaknesses. And they'll also guide you through how you have to work. And I'll take this point to go to Vishnu's next question on when I was going wrong in coordinate geometry questions most of the times. So they helped me realize that I'm spending a lot of time, like I'm spending almost 1.5 minutes on coordinate geometry questions and only understanding, and haven't even chosen an option yet. And in spite of that, I'm getting it wrong. So based on my, cursor movement on the screen and not selecting an option, they realize that I'm going wrong in my understanding of the question, not the concept, because I did well in my learning part. So I'll just take a simple example here as it's on your screen. When you look at this question, there are basically like so many numbers. There is a weird looking equation in the middle, and it goes up to 3 lines. So you don't know how to solve it. But now I'll solve it for you, and I'll tell you how my SFA asked me to do it. So the first thing is you see the equation. Like, don't even get yourself to read the entire sentence and get confused. So we all know that when y is equal to minus x square, it is a parabola. Y is equal to x square, ax square plus bx plus c is a simple parabola statement. Now when it is y is equal to minus x square, it is a parabola whose vertex is definitely going to be at the origin. Vishnu, if you could just show the diagram at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you look at the diagram, you will see that the vertex has to be at the origin. It's a very simple concept. Now the question, if you move on, will ask you what are the point of intersections in the parabola if the y has intercept. Now you just put this intercept into an equation form. Y is equal to mx plus c. Now how do you, to find the intercept, you obviously have to create the equation. Just use the point 2, 1 to create that equation. Put y as 1 because that is the value of y, 2, 1. And 2 as x, and then you find out the m value, which is the slope. As soon as you do that, you will get the equation y minus 2x, y is equal to 2x minus 3. You don't even have to plot that because that's not what the question is asking you to do. You have to just find the point of intersection. So therefore, you have your two equations, that is y is equal to minus x square and y is equal to 2x minus 3. Don't overanalyze. Do not think, so where will this intersect? Let me assign a few points to draw the diagram. Just equate the values of y to get the similar values of x and understand what are the points of intersection of the parabola.
And that results in this answer. Am I right?
Yeah.
Technically, the idea of visualization and using it to cross-verify your answer is all that takes at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. That's very well summarized.
Priyadarshini just said awesome, like very explained well. To be honest, I felt like I was learning coordinate geometry for a while, Soumya. You have a very good ability to help people. I think that's very clearly explained here. So my Nitin says explained very well. So guys who found difficulty in coordinate geometry, are you able to pick up what our guest exactly explained right now? No, Ptolemy says well explained. Clear cut says Chikoti. Yup, says Priyadarshini. It's really nice. So that's how you're able to use analytics to study and make your performance better. That's what matters at the end of the day, right?
Right. And
So
not just for coordinate geometry. And I use this technique that my SFA helped me analyze for other questions also.
mm,
So
mm,
for any question, just try and draw it. Like, drawing some stick figures in speed, distance, time questions. If it's talking about, man's age and boy's age, asking you to compare who's older 3 years later, or all of those questions, just draw and entertain yourself during the test. Drawing and just engaging yourself on pen, paper, screen, and all always helps.
like doodling with when the age problems.
Absolutely, just keep going. Like, don't let your mind hover on getting nervous.
Fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, I think that pretty much makes Quant a lot more fun like before with the tips that you provided.
Yeah, yeah,
But the next
absolutely.
part
It
is
is great fun. And verbal honestly won't help you when you go for masters, but this Quant will.
fair enough, fair
Because
enough.
it teaches
So
you how to like think on your feet and choose logically. It's not about
mm,
solving, it is just about getting closest to the right answer and approximating and choosing.
fair enough, fair enough. Now, as I already expected, a question from the audience is, now I understand, thanks for making Quant fun. What about the verbal? It's still hell for me. So in verbal, what was the most difficult area that you came across?
Verbal, the toughest was how boring it was. Like, and I am very sure that most people in the audience are going to agree with me. I'm sorry, my webinar does not sound very technical because GRE is not. Uh, and the thing is, like, with verbal, if there's such boring sentences, and if you have to read over and over again, and then
Mm,
you have this verbose passage, and then you have to answer questions which are equally irritating.
mm,
So, what I train my mind to do in RCs, because that is where my biggest challenge lied, is just to tell myself that this is all that I care about right now. And I'm not going to think about anything else. If it's talking about, sea turtles, if it's talking about NASA's discovery, being interested in public policy, I have no interest in NASA's discovery. Or I have no interest in, what the sea turtles are doing 50,000 feet below sea level. So, but I
Nothing
have to push
really appropriate.
myself to be interested in it somehow. And that is what I did. And I'll show you all also what happens many a times we read a sentence and we don't relate to it. So we lose interest and we're like, oh my God, I'm not understanding it. It's not like you're not understanding it. It's not like, it's just that you're not finding it interesting. So to move on to the next slide. So I think that's where the problem lies. But the
All right.
fact is, you just reach yourself to the end of the paragraph, and we'll do that right now with an example.
All right. So let me just show the example to the audience. So guys in the audience, can we quickly do an example of a reading comprehension question? Can we see how our guest approach reading comprehension in questions? So yep, says Priyadarshini. Wow, very, very interactive and exciting audience today. So let me just show a passage on the screen right now. All right, here's your stage, Samya.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll read it and I'll read it how I would generally read it in the exam. In the
Sure.
1970s, psychologist Philip Savado, just don't even think about reading the entire name, just read PZ, conducted a famous study called the prison study, which showed how roles influence people. Now, most of you might not find, like, not relate to this, and you'll be like, oh my God, who is this guy? What is a prison study? Don't get bogged down by these questions because nobody cares. Just move on. Z assigned one group of college student volunteers to play the role of prison guards in a stimulated prison environment. He provided these students with uniforms, gloves, whistles. Just tell yourself, okay, so he provided something. He is somebody, and he chose a group of college students and he provided them with some things. Don't learn what the things are. Moving on, he assigned another group of students to play the role of prisoners. Z found that as time went on, some of the guard students became increasingly harsh and domineering. Now, guard is in double quotes.
Mm.
Therefore, you have to start anticipating that a question might come from you. Otherwise, why will it be in double quotes? Even when we want to stress on something, we always do this. Or so just generally, even this is like a conversation. The prison students also internalized their role. Some broke down while others rebelled. So basically now we have to stop and think, okay, students had different reactions. Passively resigned to the situation. The internalization of the roles by two groups of students was so extreme that Z had to terminate the study only after 6 days. Now, at this point, after reading the passage, you might have two feelings. Either you've understood the entire passage or you've not understood it at all. If you've not understood it at all, please don't get nervous or don't go back to read the passage again. Just move to the question. Because sometimes the question will only be a word match, or it'll just be intuitive, or it'll be very out there, right or wrong. So only go back to the passage when you have to, according to the question. So Vishnu, if we could see the question now.
Yes, I'll just show it on screen. Can you see it?
Yeah. So the question asks, the word extreme used in the last sentence is used to convey that. Now, extreme, we all know in what context extreme can be used. Either you've anticipated something and something else completely happens, or a reaction has been not moderate. It has either been very positive or very negative. So that's what extreme can mean. Now, based on that, you can eliminate the options. You don't have to go back to the passage. So the first says the experiment was completely flawed and had to be terminated. Now, throughout the passage, there was no judgment. There was no third-party criticism. So therefore, you can eliminate this. The second option is the behavioral change exhibited by the students in the experiment was unexpected, forcing the premature termination of the experiment. Now, because I have read the passage before, I know that this is related to the passage. But even if you haven't, the fact that it talks about aspects which the question matches, which the passage has already spoken about, keep this in hold. Move on to the third. The experiment had exceeded the expectations of Z and yielded results in a very short time. Now, Z was obviously not happy with when we see in the passage, there is no place that says that Z was extremely happy with the results of the experiment, or he was very impressed with his undertaking. So you can eliminate this. Fourth, Z was ill-equipped to handle the contingencies. We're not talking about equipment. Nobody talks about his preparation or what he did. We're only talking about students, segregation, and an experiment. So this is unrelated. The last is behavioral experiments can often have extreme. Now, nobody's talking about how to conduct behavioral experiments here. That's not even a purpose of the passage. So this also can be eliminated. So even though if you didn't understand the passage, the second was the closest you could get because the others are not related at all. So you can conveniently choose that. And just to verify, you can go back to the passage and read this sentence in context to the last sentence, and you will know it's the right answer.
Wow, I think you already got the students to come back to the answer. I think everyone has said 2, 2, 2 is the right answer. And that's pretty much the technique of skimming and elimination at the end of the day. Right. So with your expertise, to be honest, I think can you explain the type of RC pass that can be expected with the practice that you've taken and the kind of questions you've given? Can you give us a broad classification of what are the types of RC passages?
Yeah, sure. So the RC passages generally are very based on their locations. So the first is the purpose type questions, where the RC will ask you, what do you think is the purpose of the passage? Or what is the main idea that the passage is talking about? Or what do you think the author is trying to convey through the passage? So all these are purpose type questions, and conveniently you will find the answer in the first or the last paragraph of the passage. To go even more specific, mostly it will be in the first line of the first passage or the first line of the first line of the first para and the first line of the last para. In most cases, you will find it here. In short RC passages, it might be all over the place. So for that you have to read, but it's best to answer purpose passages, purpose questions right at the end.
Okay.
The second is factual passages. These talk about, X was discovered in this year and then discovered by Y, but Z came and refuted it. But then AB came and said this is a better option. But so these are passages where it's better to take notes. Like just put variables and write what it talks about, because and you don't have to see and write. You just keep your hand moving. It helps you remember better. in terms of location. So these will mainly ask you about what the passage talks of, or what is the discovery that has been talked of the author on a certain discovery. The third is inference-based passages. Here, these are a little challenging ones where you have to really get your brain working and racking a little bit. It'll ask you what is the author trying to say from X, Y, Z. So you have to basically make 2 plus 2 is equal to 5 here. That one point will be not explicitly mentioned. But from my experience, like when you're practicing, you're always practicing a little tougher passages. But in the actual GRE as such, they just rephrase inference-based passages. So if if the passage is saying that I am a good girl, the answer will say she is not a bad girl. So it will just rephrase a certain point. So just be mindful of that. And like we did in the example, try to, once you've read a sentence, just talk to yourself. So, so Z is basically creating a play. So he's talking to students. He's creating an experiment. So just take these little mind notes. It's always helpful. And it'll help you answering all these passages.
Wow, that's pretty much a lot of very good tips. In fact, when you talked about that replacing the name with X, Y, Z, there was a seminar I remember long back. A student had does this actually. When he sees all these factual passages, he replaces the name with his own friends' names. And there was a essay he read. It's almost like doodling in Quant. You make verbal interesting to you when you relate to your own surroundings, right? So that's one way to go about it. Now,
sometimes in the middle, I remember in my GRE, I actually started laughing because I renamed my friends on the passage, and it turned out to be really funny. Don't do that. I lost 5 seconds because of laughing too much.
Sure. Because when you said peace yet, I was like, Preeti Santa. Okay, I was just thinking on that.
And then so, he talks about she's really pretty, then you are transported into a vision.
Yeah, that's always there. We don't want to get distracted in GRE examination. Now, this is a $1 billion question. I've got at least 15 times this one particular question, Soumya. This is what I'm going to jump to eventually next day. From 312 to 333, you've got about 21 point score boost. That's humongous. Anyone to start their GRE and write it again, they think a lot of things. Will I be able to improve my score? What if I get a bad score? All that plays in their mind, right? So if I had to ask you to point out certain things that helped you this score boost, what would those things be?
It would only be conquering the 3 challenges that I mentioned in the first go. The first was like, and the first thing that, I spoke to a lot of friends. I spoke to a couple of people who'd already done well when they took the GRE. And the only thing that was common amongst all of them, that they did not think that GRE was a big deal. It is a big deal, but it does not determine it does not determine your future. It will not determine whether I will contest elections and win it. It will only determine my next step in my career. So I think you just give it the due respect and not overly, take it too seriously, because that will only give you stress. So the first thing was conquering that stress. Second is, I mentioned that, you have to work on your weaknesses and then only move on. So that's the next thing that I did. But the thing that, was the game changer for me was the study plan that was provided by the GRE services. So the first thing that you get once you sign up, so I had signed up for the Focus GRE. And they gave so I'd taken a diagnostic test first, and based on that, my SFA prepared, both my verbal and my quant SFA prepared a study plan for me, which was a 30-day study plan with 10 days buffer because Durga Puja time, Diwali and all that. So we had that study plan, and in my previous GRE preparation, I used to spend like over 2 hours in just thinking what I should study next, which book I should pick up, what questions I should practice. And this study plan took all that stress away from me. I knew that I have to get up, I just go to my learning tracker, this I have to do, and I do only that. By the time I come back in the evening, my SFA has already reviewed what I've done in the morning. So in that manner, in the evening, I knew exactly what questions to practice. to the extent, so the GMCs, as they call it, Vishnu, if I don't know the full form of GMCs even now.
It's
But
basically GMCs are Grey Matter Council. Don't ask me why
yeah,
we name it that. It's just
very,
it's
very fancy jargon.
but you can go ahead and
So
explain what GMCs do.
yeah, so what it is basically like all the data analytics and the technology that they use, I told you about. The GMC is the feedback out of that which your SFA prepares for you, your guardian angel, so to speak. And it breaks down all your weaknesses, all the issues that you faced in your preparation, and tells you what to work on. So my SFAs literally used to point it out that, long answer questions is where you're going wrong in, or long RCs is where you're making more mistakes. Coordinate geometry, these types of questions is where you're making more mistakes. Work on these, do these exercises, do these questions, do the questions again, and after 2 days, re-practice it. Do your word list more importantly. And I remember for 2 days, I did not open my word bot, and my verbal SFA called me, Soumya, don't you want to reach your target score? So that sort of watch, I'm saying, how does she know I haven't opened my word bot? But that really helped because somebody is really always watching you. And that sort of seriousness helps you to be on your feet and discipline yourself.